Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Jared Austin, appearing on behalf of Mr. Martez Anderson. He's present with me at council table.
Thank you. Welcome back. And what are we doing? I know there's a record we need to make.
Your Honor, thank you. On Friday, the people did move for a bench warrant as it relates to one of our scheduled witnesses, Jordan Glover. I want the record to reflect, Your Honor, that we made contact with Mr. Glover on Friday, and his grandmother advised that she would produce him this morning at 8:30. Produce him at 8:30 this morning. I had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Glover. He has been subpoenaed. He is very cooperative. He does express an intention that he will be here today or tomorrow as needed to testify. Unless the court wants to directly deal with Mr. Glover, we're satisfied that he's going to be cooperative and appear in this case, and we would at this time move to withdraw the bench warrant. That bench warrant was not entered yet. It was held in abeyance until this morning for that very purpose.
All right. And is he in the courtroom here?
He's in a conference room right outside, Your Honor.
I am certainly happy to chat with him. I'm sure you have. I don't feel the need to, but if you think there's any hesitation that he might not show up tomorrow, I am happy to tell him exactly what will happen.
Your Honor, I understand and appreciate that, and the court does an excellent job with that when that need arises. In this particular instance, I think it was an oversight or a mistake. Legitimately, he's very cooperative, pleasant young man, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Well, then I will not speak with him just to make sure there's no issues in terms of testifying that he feels threatened in any way. So let's leave it as is. He's shown up with his own report, so the bench warrant is withdrawn. Is there any objection on behalf of the defendant?
I have no position, Your Honor. I would leave it at the court's discretion.
And do you have any matters we need to address?
No.
All right, thank you.
What's that? Okay.
Today we will be off the record at or before 1:30. I'm just terribly sorry, but I have an emergent doctor's appointment with my child that I cannot delay, so.
That's no problem, Your Honor, and the people have scheduled accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other preliminary matters for either side?
Nothing for the people. Thank you, Your
And
Honor.
you both read the jury instructions. 100% of the time I have find some error, so I'm hoping this is the one time I don't. So you've both gone over them?
Yes.
Okay.
Your Honor, thank you. I'm sorry, the people are just looking at a technical matter. The people are satisfied. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. When you're ready, then, Mr. Ring, if you could bring in the jurors.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
All rise.
Thank you. You may be seated. Good morning, members of the jury. You've been chosen to decide criminal charges made by the state of Michigan against one of your fellow citizens. In a moment, I will ask you to stand and swear to perform your duty to try the case justly and reach a true verdict. If your religious beliefs do not permit you to take an oath, you may instead affirm to try the case justly and reach a true verdict. Please stand and raise your right hand. Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm that in this action now pending before the court, you will justly decide the questions submitted to you? That unless you are discharged by the court from further deliberation, you will render a true verdict and you will render your verdict only on the evidence introduced and in accordance with the instructions of the court, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you. You may have a seat. You have notepads there. You certainly can take notes of what I'm saying and throughout the trial, as long as your note taking does not interfere with listening to the instructions or hearing all of the evidence in the case. What I'm reading to you now, you will each have your own copy to refer to. So while you can take notes, you'll still have this copy. So it's really important, and we find it very instructive. And I've talked to thousands of jurors over my career who tell me that the instructions are very useful. So it's important that you listen to them and then also read them, because it helps you to understand and digest them. You may refer to these instructions during the trial, and as I said, you'll each have your own copy. And since no one can predict the course of a trial, these instructions may change at the end of the trial. At the close of the trial, I'll provide you with a copy of my final instructions for your use during deliberation. I will now explain some of the legal principles you will need to know and the procedure we will follow in this trial. A trial follows this procedure. First, the prosecutor makes an opening statement where he gives his theories about the case. Defendant's lawyer does not have to make an opening statement, but may make an opening statement after the prosecutor makes his, or he may wait until later. These statements are not evidence. They are only meant to help you understand how each side views the case. Next, the prosecutor presents his evidence. The prosecutor may call witnesses to testify and may show you exhibits like documents or objects. Defendant's lawyer has the right to cross-examine the prosecutor's witnesses. After the prosecutor has presented all his evidence, defendant's lawyer may also offer evidence, but does not have to. By law, a defendant does not have to prove his innocence or produce any evidence. If the defense does call any witnesses, the prosecutor has the right to cross-examine them. The prosecutor may also call witnesses to contradict the testimony of the defense witnesses. After all the evidence has been presented, the prosecutor and defendant's lawyer will make their closing arguments. Like the opening statements, these are not evidence. They are only meant to help you understand the evidence and the way each side sees the case. You must base your verdict only on the evidence. And that's the evidence that I let in. At times you're going to hear that there's an objection that I suspect, so that's something you will not consider. You will also not consider any testimony that I have ordered struck. Count 1, assault with intent to murder as to Miles Washington. Defendant is charged with the crime of assault with intent to murder. To prove this charge, the prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, defendant tried to physically injure another person. Second, when defendant committed the assault, he had the ability to cause an injury, or at least believed that he had the ability. Third, defendant intended to kill the person he assaulted, Miles Washington, and the circumstances did not legally excuse or reduce the crime. Count 2, weapons, carrying concealed pistol. Defendant is charged with the crime of carrying a concealed pistol. To prove this charge, the prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, defendant knowingly carried a pistol. It does not matter why defendant was carrying the pistol, but to be guilty of this crime, defendant must have known that he was carrying a pistol. Second, this pistol was concealed on or about the person of defendant. Complete invisibility is not required. A pistol is concealed if it cannot easily be seen by those who come into ordinary contact with defendant. Count 3. Possession of firearm at time of commission or attempted commission of felony. This is known as felony firearm. Defendant is also charged with the separate crime of possessing a firearm at the time he committed or attempted to commit the crime of assault with intent to murder. To prove this charge, a prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, defendant committed or attempted to commit the crimes of assault with intent to do great bodily harm or assault with intent to murder, which have been defined for you. It is not necessary, however, that defendant be convicted of that crime. Second, at the time defendant committed that crime, he knowingly carried or possessed a firearm. It does not matter whether or not the gun was loaded. A pistol is a firearm. Count 4. Assault with a dangerous weapon as to Martell Jackson. Defendant is charged with the crime of assault with a dangerous weapon. To prove this charge, prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, defendant either attempted to commit a battery on Martell Jackson or did an act that would cause a reasonable person to fear or apprehend an immediate battery. A battery is a forceful or violent touching of the person or something closely connected with that person. Second, defendant intended either to injure Martell Jackson or to make Martell Jackson reasonably fear an immediate battery. Third, at the time, defendant had the ability to commit a battery, appeared to have the ability, or thought he had the ability. Fourth, defendant committed the assault with a dangerous weapon. A dangerous weapon is any object that is used in a way that is likely to cause serious physical injury or death. Some objects, such as guns or bombs, are dangerous because they're specifically designed to be dangerous. Other objects are designed for peaceful purposes, but may be used as dangerous weapons. The way an object is used or intended to be used in an assault determines whether or not it is a dangerous weapon. If defendant threatened to use an object or uses an object in a way that was likely to cause serious physical injury or death, it was a dangerous weapon. You must decide from all the facts and circumstances whether the prosecutor has proven that the pistol in question here was a dangerous weapon. Count 5. Possession of firearm at time of commission or attempted commission of felony. This is known as felony firearm.
Your Honor, my apologies. Before we continue, may counsel approach?
You may. All right, we're back on the record. Defendant is also charged with a separate crime of possessing a firearm at the time he committed or attempted to commit the crime of assault with a dangerous weapon. To prove this charge, the prosecutor must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, defendant committed or attempted to commit the crime of assault with a dangerous weapon, which have been defined for you. It is not necessary however, that defendant be convicted of that crime. Second, at the time defendant committed that crime, he knowingly carried or possessed a firearm. It does not matter whether the gun was loaded. A pistol is a firearm. A person accused of a crime is presumed to be innocent. This means that you must start with the presumption that defendant is innocent. This presumption continues throughout the trial and entitles defendant to a verdict of not guilty unless you're satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that he is guilty. Every crime is made up of parts called elements. The prosecutor must prove each element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Defendant is not required to prove his innocence or to do anything at all. If you find that the prosecutor has not proven every element beyond a reasonable doubt, then you must find defendant not guilty. A reasonable doubt is a fair, honest doubt growing out of the evidence or lack of evidence. It is not merely an imaginary or possible doubt, but a doubt based on reason and common sense. A reasonable doubt is just that. A doubt that is reasonable after a careful and considered examination of the facts and circumstances of this case. My responsibilities as the judge in this trial to make sure that the trial is run fairly and efficiently, to make decisions about evidence, and to instruct you about the law that applies to this case. You must take the law as I give it to you. Nothing I say is meant to reflect my own opinions about the facts of this case. As jurors, you are the only ones who will decide this case. Your responsibility as jurors is to decide what the facts of this case are. This is your job, no one else's. You must think about all the evidence and all the testimony and then decide what each piece of evidence means and how important you think it is. This includes how much you believe what each of the witnesses said. What you decide about any fact in this case is final. Part of your job in deciding what the facts of this case are is to decide which witnesses you believe and how important you think their testimony is. You do not have to accept or reject everything a witness says. You are free to believe all, none, or any part of any person's testimony. In deciding which testimony you believe, you should rely on your own common sense and everyday experience. However, in deciding whether you believe a person's testimony, you must set aside any bias or prejudice you may have based on the witness's race, national origin or ethnicity, gender identity, or sexual orientation, or religion, age, socioeconomic status. There are no fixed set rules for judging whether you believe a witness, but it may help you to think about some of these questions. Was the witness able to see or hear clearly? How long was the witness watching or listening? Was anything else going on that might have distracted the witness? Does the witness seem to have a good memory? How does the witness look and act while testifying? Does the witness seem to be making an honest effort to tell the truth, or does the witness seem to evade the questions or argue with the lawyers? Does the witness's age or maturity affect how you judge his or her testimony? Does the witness have any bias or prejudice or any personal interest in how this case is decided? Have there been any promises, threats, suggestions, or other influences that affect how the witness testifies? In general, does the witness have any special reason to tell the truth or any special reason to lie? All in all, how reasonable does the witness's testimony seem when you think about all the other evidence in the case? When it's time for you to decide the case, you're only allowed to consider the evidence that was admitted in the case. Evidence includes only the sworn testimony of witnesses, the exhibits admitted into evidence, and anything else I tell you to consider as evidence. The questions the lawyers ask the witnesses are not evidence. Only the answers are evidence. You should not think that something is true just because one of the lawyers asks questions that assumes or suggests that it is. I may ask some of the witnesses questions myself. These questions are not meant to reflect my opinion about the evidence. If I ask questions, my only reason would be to ask about things that may not have been fully explored. If you cannot hear something that is said or presented, or if you cannot see a witness or evidence, please raise your hand immediately. We will take breaks, but if you need a break sooner than when I call it, raise your hand and let me know, and we'll take a break then. During the trial, the lawyers may object to certain questions or statements made by the other lawyers or witnesses. I will rule on these objections according to the law. My rulings for or against one side or the other side are not meant to reflect my opinions about the facts of this case. Sometimes the lawyers and I will have discussions outside of your hearing or your presence. While you're in the jury room, I may have to take care of other matters that have absolutely nothing at all to do with this case. Pay no attention to these interruptions. They do happen. We try to keep them at a minimum, and we try to get you out of that small room as quickly as possible, but sometimes it's unavoidable. But I assure you, when you're in that room, we're working. We're not having a coffee break. If we have a coffee break, we'll send you outside for one too. You must not discuss the case with anyone, including your family or friends. You must not even discuss it with the other jurors until the time comes for you to decide the case. When it is time for you to decide the case, I will send you to the jury room specifically for that purpose. Then you should discuss the case amongst yourselves, but only in the jury room and only when all jurors are present. You must not talk to the defendant, the lawyer, the witnesses, or anyone who may be connected to this case. This means that you may not speak to these individuals, even if it has absolutely nothing at all to do with this case. You should be very cautious about speaking to people because you may inadvertently speak to someone connected to this case. This restriction is necessary to avoid the appearance of any improper conduct on any person's part. If anyone tries to discuss the case with you or in your presence, tell them to stop, explain that you're a juror, and you're not allowed to discuss the case. If they continue, leave, report the incident to court staff as soon as you return to court. When the trial is over, these restrictions no longer apply, and you may, if you wish, discuss the case with anyone. During the trial, do not read, listen to, or watch any news reports about the case. Under the law, the evidence you consider to decide the case must meet certain standards. For example, witnesses must swear to tell the truth, and the lawyers must be able to cross-examine them. Because news reports do not have to meet these standards, they could give you incorrect or misleading information that might unfairly favor one side or the other. So to be fair to both sides, you must follow this instruction. The restrictions I'm about to describe are meant to ensure that the parties get a fair trial. In our judicial system, it's crucial that jurors are not influenced by anything or anyone outside the courtroom. Under the law, the evidence you consider must meet certain standards. For example, witnesses must swear to tell the truth, and the lawyers must be able to cross-examine them. Because information obtained outside the courtroom does not have these safeguards, it could give you incorrect or misleading information that might unfairly favor one side or the other. These restrictions continue until I discharge you from juror service. This is your duty as a juror to decide this case based solely on the evidence you see and hear in this courtroom. You must not consider information that comes from anywhere else. This means that until you deliver your verdict, you must not read, watch, listen to, or receive any information, including opinions or commentary about the case, whether in newspapers, on television, the radio, the internet, or on social media platforms. I may have mentioned this Friday, but I'm going to say it again. If you're someone who reads a newspaper or watches, like my mother, 24/7 watches the news, local, federal, it doesn't matter. She's always got the news on. please set aside the local news and catch up with it after this trial. I never know when the media's here. They could walk in, I don't know all the reporters. They could zoom in, I don't know. And neither do you. So please do not watch or listen to the local news. You want to listen to local sports or read the sports section in the Lansing State Journal or whatever it is you listen to, go ahead. But please do not listen or read anything local until after this trial. Just record it and catch up after the trial. It is your duty as a juror to decide this case based solely on the evidence you see and hear in this courtroom. You must not consider information that comes from anywhere else. This means that until you deliver your verdict, you must not read, watch, listen to, or receive any information, including opinions or commentary about the case, whether in newspapers, on television, the radio, the internet, social media platforms, or anywhere else. You must not research any aspect of the case during the trial. This means research using a cellular phone, computer, or other electronic device to search the internet, as well as research with traditional sources like dictionaries, encyclopedias, reference manuals, newspapers, magazines, law books, medical books, anything that you are searching to get information to add on to this case is not allowed. As I said on Friday, this is not a homework class. And I emphasize that because too often we have jurors who decide to do homework, and that's just simply not allowable. If you find that anyone has done that, please alert me at once. You must not investigate the case on your own or conduct any experiments concerning the case, including investigation or experiments using the internet, cellular phones, computers, or other electronic devices. You must not visit the scene of any event at issue in this trial. If it would become necessary for you to view or visit the scene, court staff will take you there as a group under court supervision. You must not consider as evidence any personal knowledge you may have about the scene. You must not share any information about the case by any means, including cellular phones or social media. This means that even if you're not discussing the case with someone else, you may not post any information about the case on social media, websites, or in any other manner, and you may not tell anybody anything other than you're serving on a jury, not what courtroom, not what case, nothing about it. If you discover that a juror has violated my instructions, please report it to court staff or me immediately. You may take notes during the trial if you wish, but you don't have to. If you do take notes, you should be careful that it does not distract you from paying attention to all the evidence. When you go to the jury room to decide your verdict, you may use your notes to help you remember what happened in the courtroom. If you do take notes, it's like taking a test. Do not let anyone except the other jurors see them, but that's only during deliberation. So right now it's like test taking where you don't look at your partner's notes. Your notes will not be examined by anyone. When your jury service concludes, your notes will be collected and destroyed. Brian simply looks at anything that has ink mark on it, flips it over, he rips it off and puts it through the shredder. I've had jurors who want to watch it go through the shredder. Fine with me. We don't look at them, we do destroy them. You can see we have chosen a jury of 14. After you've heard all the evidence in my instructions, we will draw up lots to decide which two of you will be dismissed to form a jury of 12. And as I explained on Friday, you're not fully dismissed, you're simply discharged from serving, but you are not allowed to talk about the case because if someone fell ill or had a family emergency, we would call one or both of you back depending on the circumstance, and then deliberations would start anew. Possible penalties should not influence your decision. If you find defendant guilty, it is the duty of the judge to fix the penalty within the limits provided by the law. I may give you more instructions during the trial. After all the evidence has been presented, you will hear the lawyer's closing arguments. Following the closing arguments, I will give you additional instructions about the rules of law that apply to this case. You should consider all of my instructions as a connected series. Taken all together, they are the law you must follow. After my final instructions, you'll go to the jury room to decide your verdict. A verdict in a criminal case must be unanimous. That means that every juror must agree on it and it must reflect the individual decision of each juror. There is something called polling the jury, and if the attorneys want it, after the foreperson reads the instruction or the verdict, I will then instruct you in regard to polling the jury, which means individually. I will ask you each two questions. One, was the decision that was just read the decision of the whole jury? And was it your individual decision? It is important for you to keep an open mind and not make a decision about anything in the case until you go to the jury room to decide the case. You must not let bias, prejudice, or public opinion influence your decision. Each of us may have biases or perceptions about other people based on stereotypes. We may be aware of some of our biases, but we do not express them. We may not be fully aware of some of our other biases. To take the time you need to test what might be automatic or instinctive judgments and to reflect carefully about the evidence. I caution you again to avoid reaching conclusions that may have been unintentionally influenced by stereotypes. You must reach your own conclusions about this case individually, but you should do so only after listening to and considering the opinions of the other jurors who may have different backgrounds and perspectives from yours. But you will only listen to those opinions after the case concludes and you are deliberating. You're not allowed to talk about the case with anyone else, and that includes the other jurors, until I instruct you to. On behalf of the people, are you satisfied with the reading of this set of instructions?
The people are, thank you, Your Honor.
On behalf of the defendant,
Yes, Your Honor.
thank you. And we made a couple of corrections. The jury will receive their copies only after those corrections and likely after opening. All right,
Your Honor.
thank you. On behalf of the people, are you ready at this time for opening?
The people are prepared. Thank you, Your
You
Honor.
may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good morning. This case is about a violent and lethally escalating assault. A violent attack, ladies and gentlemen, during which multiple people were repeatedly punching, stomping, and kicking the victim, in this case, Miles Washington, outside of a party at the location of 6255 Beachfield Drive within the city of Lansing in Ingham County, Michigan. A violent attack, ladies and gentlemen, that escalated when a gunman pointed a 9mm firearm and fired that gun directly at Miles Washington, who was struck 2 times in his upper thighs and knee. The gunman, who both violently attacked Miles Washington and then fired 4 rounds point blank at Miles Washington that night, will be identified to you in this case as this defendant seated right there, Martez Anderson. As a result of his conduct in the early morning hours of July 7th of 2024, this defendant is charged in a 5-count information with count 1, assault with intent to murder Miles Washington, count 2, carrying a concealed weapon, count 3, felony firearm, count 4, assault with a dangerous weapon, and count 5, felony firearm, all of which will be defined for you in this case. It is the position of the people of the state of Michigan that the evidence will show you beyond a reasonable doubt that this defendant is in fact guilty of each of these crimes charged. As members of this jury, you are going to be taken on a journey into 2 very likely unfamiliar worlds. The first world that you're going to be taken into is the world of this courtroom where you have already started your jury service, a world that is governed by very specific rules and procedures that are read to you in the form of instructions. In fact, this morning, you've even heard some of the instructions that apply and govern a criminal case. Prior to summation, when I speak to you again on behalf of the people of the state of Michigan, Judge Aquilina will again instruct you And at that time, she will instruct you on each of the elements that must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt for all of the crimes that you will collectively deliberate on in this case. When the people speak to you again during that summation, we're going to argue to you the facts of this case and how the totality of the facts in this case prove each of the elements beyond a reasonable doubt on the crimes on which you are instructed. But for purposes of our opening statement here this morning, ladies and gentlemen, the people want to give you an overview of what our theory is in this case and what we anticipate at least some of the evidence will show you. The second world that we anticipate the evidence will take you into in this case is a very frightening world indeed. A world of street violence, of violent assault, of guns, and ultimately a potentially lethal assault. In short, the world that 21-year-old Miles Washington found himself in the early morning hours of July 7th of 2024. And within this world, our theory in this case is that this case and the evidence is about four things. It's about a violent assault. It's about an escalation of that violent assault. It's about identification of the perpetrator of that violent assault. And it is about lethal or deadly intention. The evidence will be broken up in this case into multiple time frames. The first time frame will begin at approximately 3:18 a.m. in the early morning hours of July 7th of 2024. And the evidence is going to show you that at about 3:18 a.m., multiple road patrol officers from the Lansing Police Department were emergency dispatched to the location of 6255 Beachfield Drive within the city of Lansing, Ingham County, Michigan, on the call of a shooting. One of the officers we expect you're going to hear from today is Officer Damon Pulver, who is a road patrol officer with the Lansing Police Department. And he will confirm to you that after dispatch, he proceeded to 6255 Beachfield Drive with his lights and sirens on. In fact, you're going to hear and see evidence that Officer Pulver and multiple road patrol officers who were on duty that night emergency responded to that location, lights and sirens all arriving at the same time. We expect you're going to hear that 6255 Beachfield Drive is a residential apartment complex. It's within the Fairfield Place complex on the south side of Lansing. And this is a large residential complex, and it's surrounded by a large parking lot, which you're going to see here today. Officer Pulver will describe to you that upon arrival, police observed a male subject. He was shirtless. He was lying face down in the parking lot. This male subject was lying between two parked cars on the parking lot pavement just adjacent to the sidewalk. This male subject that I've just described will be identified to you as the crime victim in this case, 21-year-old Miles Washington. In front of the location where Miles was lying between those two parked cars, another car was parked, a red car that was parked perpendicular to the other cars. And you're going to see that that was Miles's vehicle. And that's going to be an important fact for you to consider as you look and deliberate on the facts of this case. Officer Pulver will describe you that police observed that Miles Washington had at least one gunshot wound. He was awake, but he was in acute physical and emotional distress after this incident. As officers began attending to him, Officer Pulver observed multiple people around this area in the parking lot adjacent to the buildings, and he's going to describe to you that this was a very chaotic crime scene. So as officers began attending to Miles on the ground and providing first aid to Miles on the ground, it was Officer Pulver's job to make sure that the Lansing Fire Department could get their fire and paramedic rig in to the scene to attend to Miles. And you're going to hear that Miles was placed onto a stretcher and loaded into a Lansing Fire Department ambulance. He was then transported to the Sparrow Hospital emergency room. At Sparrow Hospital, ladies and gentlemen, Miles Washington was diagnosed with having sustained at least two, but possibly three separate gunshot wounds to his right and left legs. Specifically, you're going to hear that Miles sustained a through and through gunshot wound to his right thigh, and then a through and through gunshot wound to his left thigh. And the evidence is going to show that these wounds may have been two separate independent gunshot wounds, or they might have been one continuous gunshot wound that proceeded through and through each one of his thighs. You're going to hear that Miles also sustained a third gunshot wound to his left knee, which appeared to enter from the right side of the knee, that traveled into his body, hitting his femur, and then the bullet ultimately lodged in his knee joint. So serious were his injuries that night that Sparrow Hospital had to activate the orthopedic trauma team. And you're going to hear testimony early tomorrow morning, we expect, from Dr. Nicole Fracticelli, and she is an orthopedic surgeon and a member of the orthopedic trauma team at Sparrow Hospital. Dr. Fracticelli will describe to you the nature and the severity of Miles Washington's injuries. She's going to tell you what she observed about the location of the wounds and then her diagnosis about where the entrance and exit sites were on Miles's body. She's going to tell you that the bullet that entered into Miles's left leg, a portion of that, it hit his femur bone, and then a fragment of that lodged in his left knee joint. And she's going to tell you about the risks of very serious physical complications when a bullet lodges in the knee joint. And so serious are those complications that she told you that she's going to tell you that she had to perform emergency orthopedic surgery to remove that fragment from Miles's body. And lastly, in addition to describing the actual injuries that Miles sustained, what she's going to talk to you about is the lethal complications that can occur when people sustain gunshot wounds to their legs. You will hear testimony, we believe today, from police officers, who responded to Sparrow Hospital and made initial contact with Miles Washington in the emergency room. You're going to hear that he was interviewed, and you're going to hear about his physical and emotional and mental condition at the time that he was interviewed. And we expect that you're going to see photographs and evidence documenting some of the injuries that Miles Washington sustained, as well as the treatment that he was receiving at Sparrow Hospital. So Miles Washington's arrival at Sparrow Hospital and treatment will take us to the next time frame that the evidence will cover for you in this case. And that's the hours and days and even weeks after Miles Washington was shot and left on the parking lot surface at 6255 Beachfield Drive. It was during that time frame that the police attempted to unravel the events of what had happened that night. Who had shot Miles? Why had they shot Miles? Where had the person who had shot him gone off to after this horrific event? And given the uncooperative and chaotic nature of the scene that police encountered that night, you're going to hear that that proved to be no small task for the Lansing Police Department. And you're going to hear about a cooperative police investigation that occurred involving road patrol officers and detectives and crime analysts with the Lansing Police Department, with the lead detective in this case being Detective Martha McGonigal from the Lansing Police Department. You will hear that after Miles was removed from the scene via ambulance, the first priority that police had was to secure this very chaotic circumstance. So they set up crime scene tape, and they had security officers present, and they locked this particular area down. It was at this time that they began to process the scene with crime scene technicians for any evidence that they could find. The evidence is going to show you in this case that this is a very large crime scene, okay? You're going to see that it starts all the way over at an apartment building at 6255 Beachfield. And it extends from the back of that apartment through a grassy area down to the sidewalk, and then ultimately up to those parked cars where Miles was found on the pavement. And in short, what you're going to hear is that this incident began on the back porch of this apartment located at 6255 Beachfield. And what you're going to see in this case is that police documented that scene so that you can look at the totality of where that crime scene was. You're going to see body camera footage. You're going to see photographs that take you from that apartment at 6255 Beachfield through that grassy area onto the sidewalk to the location where Miles was found shot. One of the things that you're going to hear we expect today is in the sidewalk area in between the area of the apartment and where Miles was laying on the ground, police were able to find 2 fired 9mm shell casings. And photographs are going to document for you where those shell casings were located, and the location of those 2 shell casings is going to be very important evidence for you to consider in this case. And you're going to have a chance to look at those shell casings as admitted evidence in this case here today. As part of this cooperative investigation, you're going to hear that police interviewed whoever was cooperative as a witness that particular night. One of those witnesses will be identified as then 20-year-old Jordan Glover. And Jordan was the resident at 6255 Beachfield Drive, and we anticipate that you're going to hear from Jordan as a witness in this case. Jordan's going to tell you that on the night of July 6th and 7th, he was having a birthday party at his apartment at 6255 Beachfield. People were invited to that party, and sometime after 2 a.m. that birthday party ended, though numerous guests still remain on scene. After the party formally ended, 2 separate groups of young men, uninvited, came to that party. One group consisted of our victim in this case, Miles Washington, and his 2 friends, Martrell Jackson and James Hurst. The second group contained multiple young men. One of those men will be identified in this case as our defendant, Martez Anderson. Neither of those 2 groups had been there earlier that night, and neither of those 2 groups of men had actually been formally invited to the party. The evidence is going to show that while at the residence, Miles saw his ex-girlfriend, Anaya, and he began talking to her. And though they had broken up in the past, they were still friends with each other, and they were cordially interacting with each other at the party that night. While Miles was talking with Anaya on the back porch of that apartment at 6255, this second group of men approached the porch from the side of the building. One of those men was wearing a black hooded sweatshirt and black pants, both with very distinctive markings that you will see in this case. That young man wearing the black hoodie and the black pants with distinctive markings will be identified as our defendant, Martez Anderson. When these individuals arrived at the back porch, the defendant and his group immediately began attacking Miles Washington and the second named victim in our case, Martrell Jackson. You will hear and see evidence in this case that the defendant and his group jointly unleash a fury of violence on these 2 boys. They are punching and hitting first Martrell, and then they are brutally punching, stomping, kicking, hitting Miles as he's on the ground. In fact, you're going to see that during the investigation into this matter, Detective McGonigal was able to obtain cellular phone video, because what happens at a young person's party, everyone has their cell phone out, so she was able to get 2 videos from that party that show this fight. And we expect that you're going to see this video footage in this case, and you're going to see it frame by frame, and you're going to watch this video footage over and over in this particular case. And in this video, you're going to see the defendant and his group violently attack both Martrell and Miles. You're going to see Miles being stomped while he's on the ground and punched and kicked while he is trying to protect himself. You're going to watch in real time in these videos as this group moves from the back porch at 6255 down this grassy area on the side of the building, still continuing to viciously assault Miles Washington as they move towards the parking lot area. As this video concludes, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear as this defendant, Martez Anderson, fires 4 gunshots from a 9mm handgun directly at Miles Washington. The gunshots that ring out so frighteningly on this video will take you to the 3rd time frame that the evidence is going to cover in this case, and that is the hours, minutes, and even seconds leading up to Miles being shot and simply left there on the pavement. You're going to hear testimony we expect from Miles Washington, who is a 20-year-old, 22-year-old young man right now. We expect Miles is going to describe for you that he was at the party, and he's going to talk to you about his very cordial interactions with his ex-girlfriend that night. And then he's going to talk to you about his interactions with the defendant and his group. Miles will describe to you that while he was on the back porch, he and Martrell were getting ready to leave this party when the defendant and his group showed up. Miles will describe to you that multiple guys jumped Martrell and started assaulting him. When Miles tried to help Martrell, he was literally jumped by multiple young men who began violently hitting, kicking, and stomping him on the ground. In fact, even after he's taken to the ground and is defenseless, the defendant and his group continue to beat him. Miles will identify two of the males that were attacking him. One will be identified as a young man by the name of Cedric, and the other will be identified in this case as our defendant, Martez Anderson. Miles is going to tell you that finally this attack stopped as they got closer to the parking lot. He's going to tell you the circumstances as to how that attack stopped. And he's going to tell you that after it stopped, he started going backwards to get away from the situation to his car that was in the parking lot. He was leaving. He was going away. He was getting out of there. But he was so frightened and so traumatized by what had just happened to him that he was literally walking backwards to watch every move that this group was making to him. And his buddy Martrell was standing right to his side. And the evidence is going to show you that as Miles backpedaled away from this assault towards his car, he observed that two men still continued to pursue him. He's going to tell you that one of those men appeared to be a heavier set male. And the second male pursuing right next to him was this defendant, Martez Anderson, who now was holding a 9mm pistol in his right hand. As this defendant, Martez Anderson, approached Miles and his friend, he swung that pistol to pistol whip Martrell Jackson, one of our identified victims in this case. When he swung that weapon at Martrell, he actually struck Martrell in the head. Miles tried to push him away to protect his friend. And when he did that, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear that this young man seated right there, he leveled that 9mm handgun directly at Miles Washington, and he fired that handgun point blank 4 times at Miles Washington. Miles is going to describe for you what happened when those gunshots went off, what that was like, what he did with his body. And one of the things that he's going to describe for you is that he tried to run, but he couldn't. And he was on the ground, literally crawling on his elbows to his final resting place in that parking lot because he believed he was going to die. The direct and circumstantial evidence that you will be presented with in this case, ladies and gentlemen, will identify that on the night of July 7th, 2024, this defendant seated at counsel table, Martez Anderson, jointly participated in a violent group assault on both Martrell Jackson and Miles Washington at the location of 6255 Beachfield Drive in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, Michigan. The direct and circumstantial evidence will identify that the defendant at that time was in possession of a lethal 9mm handgun concealed on his person. The defendant then used that handgun first to pistol whip Martrell Jackson. The defendant then lethally escalated this assault, pointing that firearm directly at Miles Washington and firing it 4 times. And luckily, Miles was only struck in his legs. You will be instructed in this case that a defendant's intent, meaning what their mental state is when they act, that may be proven by what the defendant said, what he did, how he did it, or by any other facts and circumstances in evidence to include the use of a dangerous weapon. In this case, the evidence is going to show you that based upon multiple factors to include the deadliness of the weapon that was used, the number of gunshots that were fired, the manner in which this defendant fired those gunshots, the distance at which this defendant fired those gunshots, and other factors to include the continuing escalation of a violent assault. All of those factors, we will argue to you beyond a reasonable doubt, show that when this defendant acted that night, he wasn't trying to scare somebody. His intention was to kill Miles Washington. When I speak to you again during summation on behalf of the people of the state of Michigan, the people are going to be asking you to hold this defendant accountable for this violent, brutal, lethally escalating attack that left at least one person very seriously injured. We are going to be asking you to hold him accountable with a verdict of guilty of assault with intent to commit murder, as well as the additional charged felonies on this information. Thank you very much.
On behalf of defendant, opening at this time,
Yes, Your Honor.
you may proceed when you're ready.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Jared Austin, and I'm very proud and privileged to stand here and represent Mr. Martez Anderson. Now, there are some things that Mr. Crino and I are going to agree on. Yes, Martez Anderson was at the party that night, along with many others. And I think the evidence will bear that out, and I don't think that's going to be disputed. However, he did not shoot anyone that night. And the evidence, I believe, will be clear on that when you consider everything in its totality. It was dark. It was well past midnight. This was a party atmosphere in the middle of summer. A lot of people there drinking, partying going on. And then suddenly, out of this melee, unexpectedly, gunfire rings out. A startling event, causing panic amongst the partygoers. Needless to say, it was something that they were not expecting to happen. It happened in an instant with no time to prepare or act. There were a lot of people there. And the evidence will show that amidst all this chaos, that Mr. Anderson was incorrectly identified as the person who did the shooting, or at the very least, the evidence will show that there is a reasonable doubt that he was the shooter. And I think if you hear any witness testimony identifying him, or any witness saying that it was Mr. Anderson that did that, is going to be suspect at best for those reasons. And I think you're going to hear some discrepancies and contradictions on exactly who the identity of the person who did the shooting was. And the evidence will be very clear on that. Now, we've heard some already is about what the people expect that the evidence will show. And I'm here to go over some things with you as to what the evidence will not show. And that's going to be important is because, as you've already been instructed, reasonable doubt can come not just from the evidence, but from the lack of evidence. You heard that you expect to see a video of this fight. And at the conclusion of this fight is when the shooting happens. What you will not see on that video is the identity of the person doing the shooting. Certainly you will not see Mr. Anderson on that video shooting anyone. You will not see on any video or photographic evidence Mr. Anderson shooting Mr. Washington or firing a gun, period, that night. You're not going to hear any evidence that the police located the firearm that they could link to this shooting, and they were somehow able to link that gun to Mr. Anderson in some way. You will not see or hear any such evidence or testimony in this case. You're not going to hear any evidence or any testimony that Mr. Anderson confessed to doing this shooting. You will not hear any evidence that he confessed to the police or any friends or any lay witnesses, or that he was bragging about doing the shooting on social media. None of that. The burden of proof, ladies and gentlemen, rests right at this table over here. It'll never move. It'll never shift. It'll never change. And Mr. Anderson walked into this courtroom an innocent man. He sits at that table an innocent man. And I'm confident when it's all said and done, he's going to walk out of those doors the same way he came in. Because the evidence is going to clearly, undeniably show that he did not do this, and that at a minimum, there is a reasonable doubt in this case. And I am so confident of that I'm going to have an opportunity to come and speak to you again after all the evidence has been presented, after you've seen and heard from all of the witnesses and any of the exhibits that have been admitted. And I'm going to return and ask that you make a finding, return a verdict of not guilty. Until then, I ask that you keep an open mind and that you pay careful and close attention to all the witnesses and the evidence, especially those centered around the party and the circumstances of this fight and this shooting, as you weigh the credibility of that testimony and that evidence. And that I ask that you hold them to that burden of proof. If you do that, I believe that you will agree that the only true and just verdict will be a verdict of not guilty. That is exactly, when I come and speak to you again after all the evidence has been presented, it's exactly what I'm going to ask you to do. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the people, your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. People call Officer Damon Pulver to the witness stand. Start with the video. Yeah. Okay, and Brian, can you get the video portion set, please? Yeah. And then I'll switch to Elmo photographs. Video for now. Just one exhibit video, and then we'll go right to photographs. Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You can get your hand down. Have a seat. Feel free to adjust the microphone. And when you are comfortable, pull the chair right up there. Yep. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Damon Pulver, Damonpulver.
Thank you, counsel. When you're ready, you may proceed.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
Officer Pulver, where are you employed?
I'm employed with the Lansing Police Department.
In what capacity are you employed with the Lansing Police Department?
I'm employed as a police officer.
How long have you been a police officer with the Lansing Police Department?
I've been a police officer for a little over 5 years.
What is your current assignment with the Lansing Police Department?
I'm currently assigned to road patrol.
Can you tell the jury, please, what hours or shift you're assigned to work with the Lansing Police Department?
I am currently assigned to night shift patrol, which is between 8:30 at night to 6:30 in the morning.
Officer, can you tell the jury, please, in simplest terms, what are your job responsibilities as a road patrol officer with the Lansing Police Department?
My general responsibilities are to respond to calls for service, conduct traffic stops, and things of that nature.
Officer Pulver, I want to direct your attention now to the date of July 7th of 2024. Were you so employed as a police officer with the Lansing Police Department on that date?
I was.
And were you working on July 7th, 2024?
I was.
Back in July of 2024, what hours or shift were you working?
I was working night shift patrol, again between 8:30 at night and 6:30 in the morning.
In what section of the city of Lansing were you working back in July of 2024?
I was working the south end of the city.
On the specific evening of July 7th, 2024, were you working alone or with a partner?
I was working alone.
Were you in full police uniform like you are here today?
I was.
And were you working in a marked patrol vehicle, sir?
I was.
All right. Officer, I want to direct your attention now to approximately 3:18 a.m. Do you remember that time?
I did.
Tell the jury, did there come a time when you were dispatched to the location of 6255 Beachfield Drive?
Yes, I was dispatched to that location.
That location of 6255 Beachfield Drive, is that within the city of Lansing?
It is.
And is that within Ingham County, Michigan?
It is.
Officer Pulver, can you tell the jury, please, why were you dispatched to that location at that particular date and time?
I was dispatched to that location for a shooting.
Do you recall where you were when you were dispatched or you received that initial dispatch?
I don't specifically remember exactly where I was, but I was somewhere in the south end of Lansing.
Can you tell the jury, please, what is a priority call?
A priority call is a call which has a great deal of the potential loss of life is what that would be.
This particular shooting call that was dispatched at 3:18 a.m., would you consider that to be a priority call?
I would absolutely consider that to be a priority call.
Understanding that, sir, did you proceed to the location from wherever you started? Did you proceed to that location in your vehicle with lights and sirens?
I did.
I want to talk a little bit about the geographic location of 6255. Where is that located within the city of Lansing?
It's located in the southeast corner of Lansing, kind of over by the South Pennsylvania Mire, just a little bit to the east of that.
Are you familiar with that geographic location?
I am.
Can you tell the jury, please, what are the major cross streets that are close to that location of 6255 Beachfield?
Yep, that would be like Miller in Pennsylvania.
And what is actually located at 6255 Beachfield?
It's an apartment complex.
Do you know the name of that apartment complex?
I don't know the specific name.
All right, but it is a residential apartment complex?
That is correct.
All right. Now, sir, when you are driving a marked patrol vehicle, as you described, is that patrol vehicle equipped with some sort of camera equipment?
It is.
And can you tell us about that, please?
It has a dash camera, and then there's also a rear camera that is covering the back seat of the car.
Under what circumstances is your in-car, what I'll call your in-car video, activated when you're responding to a call?
It is activated whenever I turn on my lights for my patrol vehicle.
On this particular night of July 7th, 2024, did you have a in-car video on the front of your vehicle as you described?
I did.
Was that car video working that night?
It was.
And would that car video have been activated when you used your lights and sirens to go to 6255 Beachfield?
It would.
All right. I'm showing you what's been marked into evidence in this case is People's Exhibit number 38, identified as your fleet body cam footage. Is this an item that is your fleet or front body cam video that was taken on the night of July 7th, 2024?
Yes.
All right, this time I'm going to move admission. It has been shown previously to council. I'm going to move admission of People's Proposed Exhibit number 38.
Any objection or voir dire?
Without objection.
Admitted.
All right, I'm going to play that for you. Just give me a second. All right, for the record, Your Honor, I'm going to be playing Officer Pulver's fleet camera. I don't see it showing up on the screen, though.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm working on it here.
I think the Elmo feature is on. It's got to go on. I'm sorry? I said maybe it's got to go on.
Your Honor, one of the jurors seems to have their hand up. My screen is not working.
Oh, Brian.
Yeah, I'm working on it here. It's, for some reason, it's not working at all.
Okay, well,
Ron, can we take 5, please? And
Yeah,
then just bring the jury in so we can fix this so they don't have to sit here and go through the
sure,
technology.
let's take a break.
All rise.
Are any of your screens working?
No, not yet, Judge.
Oh,
because I
no,
haven't got it.
some of them are.
Looks like this one might just be off.
It might, yeah, it might. Sometimes there's a connectivity glitch because people hit it. Yeah.
This guy just got bumped off.
Okay, so there's our working. All right. You can all be seated. We can take a break. We're not, it's probably gonna take 10 minutes. Need to call someone.
Don't have any issues hooking into the box, but
I guess that, you know how all the equipment was weirded out, you want to turn it off and on back there?
Yeah, it's only for the sound.
Oh.
I could step out for a brief.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's the app there. Which you should have, because I put it on there last time for you. Yeah, find that clip share. Yeah. Search. Yeah, just take a clip share. So you can just go straight. Clip share. Share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I swear, every trial is him.
It's something every
yeah, we
time.
had it set beforehand too. I don't know why.
So it was it working earlier today?
We had it.
Somebody was in, our whole place was left a mess, so I don't know if they messed with something. That's a concern.
This should be here then. So I should be.
Okay, you got it.
I don't have any sound. Oh, let me see if I have sound.
Yeah, but he might need to, he doesn't have sound, right?
Oh,
So you
it may not be on yet. Hold on.
It's not,
It takes like, what, 30 seconds for the sound actually gets on?
yeah.
This one? This one?
See, I should have sound here, but I don't.
Bill, I think for this one, this is on about like 45 seconds.
What's going on out in the hall? There it goes.
So I'm good there. We'll be able to switch back and forth.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything okay in the hall?
Yeah. They locked all the conference room doors, but left every other door unlocked.
I want to find out what happened. That's just, something's wrong. Cleaning people, Brenda needs to get on top of that because we can't be left, and especially the trial date. and mess
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what.
up.
I don't know what was going on there.
Something's not right.
Maybe you gotta plug in through this little thing that was this new thing that was on there. I don't know. Problem solved.
Culver, when we left off, we were talking about the admission of people's exhibit number 38, which is your fleet car camera. You see an image on the screen. Is that part of the video image from your in-car fleet camera?
Yes.
It may be difficult, but are you able to tell us what street you're on in the city of Lansing when you begin to activate your in-car camera? If you don't, I understand.
If I were to take a guess, that looks like Aurelius.
All right.
Aurelius amount.
So playing people's exhibit number 38.
Oh, yeah. Nobody has a kid, I could ask for rejoin. I'm looking at the outside of the parking lot for the victim.
By stopping there, officer, are you able to tell us what cross street you're passing right there?
I am currently at Aurelius and John.
Continue playing.
Yeah, 17-year-old black, with orange, all black. Yeah, possibly one of the apartment buildings.
Down on beach field, black pants, white shirt.
I'm going to stop the video there. Can you tell us where you just turned in the video on people's exhibit 38?
I just turned westbound onto Miller.
Continue playing.
Showing units to or beach field. That actually having that go to the east, and then we'll start setting up to the east.
Okay, units to that perimeter to the east, Officer DeGraw, if you go to the east, 38, I'll have you going 36.
I'm going to stop you there on people's exhibit 38. We see in the video, it looks like at least 2 police cruisers that you made contact with. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are both of those cruisers going to the incident over at 6255 Beachfield?
It appears one of them is going to go over to the east a little bit more to set up a perimeter, kind of from the radio traffic that I was over here and there.
Fair to say that they're all involved in this investigation.
That is correct.
And for the record, the court reporter does not take down any of the conversation that's on the video. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. And the exhibit would speak for itself, so thank you. Where have you turned now on people's exhibit 38?
I have turned southbound onto Beachfield.
All right. Continue.
Oh, dear.
That is the standard car.
All right, where are you turning now, People's Exhibit 38?
I am turning into the apartment complex.
And I believe that there's shown in the exhibit the name or the title of the apartment complex. Do you see that, sir?
It's a little grainy, but I can see the sign itself.
Is Fairfield Place sound accurate to you, sir?
That looks very accurate.
All right, so you're now turning into the parking lot of Fairfield Place, is that correct?
Yes,
And from the video, it looks like there's multiple other police cars that are arriving at this time.
that is correct.
Do you recall in total how many police units actually arrived to the shooting incident about 3:18 in the morning?
From the looks of it, I think it was 3. I think it was myself and 2 other patrol cars.
And did
Both
that,
were at the same time.
did officers continue to arrive later that night?
Yes,
So multiple officers investigating this?
correct.
All right, continue playing. All right, so we just observed you exit your patrol car, is that accurate?
That is correct.
Looks like there was at least 2 other officers who were on scene first and exited their patrol cars at the same time you did, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, Officer Pulver, can you tell the jury, before we show more footage, can you tell the jury where you next proceeded to after getting out of your patrol car?
I proceeded to the south side of the parking lot, which is where the dispatch had put out information that the victim was going to be at.
When you arrived at the south side area of the parking lot, can you tell the jury, please, what, if anything, you observed when you got there?
Yes, I observed a male laying in between 2 different vehicles that appeared to have a gunshot wound to his leg and was bleeding on the ground.
Now, sir, when you were working that night, in addition to your fleet car camera, did you also have body camera that you were wearing?
I did.
Is that standard issue for Lansing Police Department officers to wear body camera?
It is.
Under what circumstances is your body worn camera activated?
When we're responding to calls for service and making contact with people in relation to those calls.
On the night of July 7th, 2024, were you equipped with and wearing body camera?
I was.
And was your body camera working, sir?
It was.
And has body camera footage been obtained as a result to your initial response to this location at 6255 Beachfield?
Yes.
I want to show you what's been marked into evidence in this case as People's Proposed Exhibit number 7. And it has previously been shown to counsel. Your Honor, I'm going to move at this time by stipulation, please, of People's Proposed Exhibit number 7, which is identified as excerpts or redacted excerpt from Officer Culver's body camera footage.
Admitted by stipulation.
Thank you, Your Honor.
A stipulation is an agreement.
All right, so I have all exhibit number 7 on the screen, officer, and tell us what type of camera we're looking at and what we're looking at inside your patrol vehicle at this time.
Yes, this is a body camera video. The camera is attached to the center of my chest line. And the view that we have right now is me and my patrol car, the view of the screen.
When you are driving to the scene, as we just observed in your fleet camera, is your body camera also on at that point in time?
It is.
Really what you're filming during the pursuit or the transportation is just the interior of your car, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so I'm going to start playing this, just show a little bit of what that looks like, and then I'll fast forward to your arrival on scene, okay? So playing exhibit number 7, just tell us what we're looking at. Does this correspond with your initial responses we just saw on the fleet cam?
That is correct.
All right. All right, so I'm going to start playing at 3:55 on the screen. Just tell us what we're seeing in 3:55. Are you at that location now?
Yes, you're seeing me exit my patrol vehicle as I pull up to the parking lot.
Right, again, corresponding to your arrival in the fleet camera we just observed.
That is correct.
All right, so playing from there, please. All right, so I want to kind of unpack that and ask you some questions. So going back to playing your initial arrival on scene. All right, so as you approach those brown buildings that we see in the background, what are those brown buildings?
Those brown buildings are a portion of the apartment complex.
We see a male that's running, appears to be shirtless. Did you make contact with that individual later that night?
I did.
And could you identify who that individual was, please?
Martrell Jackson.
Now, we see in your body camera just a few people. Were there other people located in the totality of this area that night?
Yes, there was a handful of people that were around the general vicinity.
Okay. At some point in time, were there more people on scene that night as well?
Yes.
How would you describe the scene in terms of whether it was chaotic or not as officers were trying to process it?
I would describe the scene initially as pretty chaotic.
And why is that, officer?
Primarily being that a lot of people are worked up over the incident that's going on itself. There are family members of people who are victims of this that are a little bit worked up about everything. So between all that and there being limited resources as police officers, it can be fairly chaotic to try to control these scenes.
All right. Now we see in the lot there appears to be a number of cars parked. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Those cars that we see in the background, they appear to be in appointed or designated parking spots. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Do you also see a red car here at 404 in the video, sir?
I did.
And how is that red car parked as it relates to the other cars in the lot, please?
That car is parked kind of where general traffic would be driving through, so not the parking spot blocking other cars.
I refer to it as being parked in a perpendicular manner to the other vehicles. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Yes.
All right. Continuing to play. All right, now when you first make contact with that vehicle at 408, can you tell us, are the doors on the passenger side of that vehicle, are they open or closed?
They are open.
All right. Playing again. All right, now I want to show you the window of the red car, sir. Do you see the window or the front windshield of that red car?
I did.
What, if anything, appears to be present on the area of the windshield of that red car?
There appears to be glass break, the glass that would be kind of consistent with a bullet hole.
All right. Does the reporter have an evidence check, please?
You're looking for evidence stickers or some over.
Oh, that's fine, Steve. One, we just had to redo it this morning, so what more? All right, officer, I want to show you what's been marked into evidence as people's proposal to the number 22. Can I identify what that is, please? What do we see in people exhibit number 22?
We see a portion of the body camera photo or video.
The portion that we're looking at here, does that basically correspond with the time frame that we're on in the video right here? I think this is 3:25, 3:38, and the video says 3:25, 38, so it exactly corresponds.
That's, yep.
Right, is this a fair and accurate depiction of what your body camera is recording at 3:25 and 38 seconds when you arrived on scene?
It is.
Your Honor, I'm going to move admission at this time of People's Proposed Exhibit number 22.
Any objection or voir dire?
Without objection.
Admitted.
Your Honor, just for the record, I'm going to put a new sticker on here, please, because I think it says that position. All right, so we're going to continue playing. We've described the vehicle, where it was located, the doors, the condition of the window, and Mr. Jackson. Is that all correct, sir?
That's correct.
All right, continue playing. Right now, sir, the individual that we see, can you tell the jury from the body camera, where is that individual lying on the parking lot pavement?
Is it supposed to be on my screen?
Is it?
Oh, I thought you were going Elmo, sorry.
No,
That was my fault.
you're fine. Very good. So we're at 3:25 and 42 seconds. Tell us what we're observing as relates to the person that's on the pavement of the parking lot, please.
We are observing the victim laying on the ground, laying face down.
So you indicated he is laying face down, is that correct?
That is correct.
And could you tell us what you observed that the victim was wearing when you first made contact with him upon your initial arrival?
He was wearing a pair of blue jeans and then also appeared to be shirtless, to my understanding.
And he was laying on his face or face down as you described it?
That is correct.
Can you tell the jury what, if anything, you observed about his physical condition when you first made contact with him?
I noticed there was a pool of blood coming from his lower torso, his legs.
What, if anything, did you observe about his physical condition in terms of whether he was awake or not when you made contact with him?
He was conscious at the time.
And what, if anything, did you observe about his demeanor, how he was acting when you made contact with him on the scene that night?
He seemed fairly distraught.
Okay. Now, during the course of this individual, sir, did you have occasion to identify the person that appeared to be shot lying on the ground in what we see in People's Exhibit number 7?
I later learned his name.
Okay, and what is his name, please?
Miles Washington.
All right. Continue playing.
The screen kind of did a thing again. Sorry. There we go.
Hold on just a second. I want to go back to where I was. All right, now we see 2 police officers that are with Mr. Washington on the ground. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And can you identify who those police officers were, please?
That is Officer Bynum and Officer Rincon.
What were Officer Bynum and Officer Rincon doing when they first made initial contact with the victim, Miles Washington, on the ground?
They were providing medical aid to the victim.
Now, sir, after you made these initial observations, can you tell the jury what it is exactly you next did to assist in this investigation?
So what I was doing to assist the investigation was to make my best attempts to make the scene safe for paramedics as they were coming in, and also for the officers that were rendering aid to the victim.
Officer, can you tell the jury, please, what it means for the Lansing Fire Department to stage when they are responding to a violent crime incident?
Staging basically means when we go to a violent scene where it has high danger potential, the fire department will stage for medical purposes, and it's up to us as the police department to make that scene as safe as possible for them, so that when the fire department does come over, that they're not in danger of being assaulted or shot or anything along those lines.
In this particular case, was the Lansing Fire Department staged prior to responding to assist Mr. Washington on the pavement?
Yes, they were.
All right. And who made the decision that it was appropriate for the Lansing Fire Department to then come into the location and attend to Mr. Washington?
It was myself and then the other officers that were rendering aid.
Okay. Now, sir, before I move on from this location, and I'm jumping ahead for a minute, but did you learn as you assisted in this investigation that the crime scene extended from a different location than just where Mr. Washington is found on the ground here?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell the jury, please, where did the crime scene extend to? And we'll get more into it, but where in basic terms did it extend to?
In basic terms, it extended more to the east behind the eastern buildings.
All right, now on the screen, can you mark with an X, please, as to where the building that was in question was as it relates to the area where Mr. Washington was found? It may not be on the screen, but just the best you can.
Yeah, so the area that it all kind of started at, where the scene was, is kind of like over here on that far side.
Okay, great. And the location of that building, as we're going to hear, is that 6255 Beachfield Drive?
That is correct.
These apartments, do you know what kind of apartments are they? Are they townhouses, single floor, or don't you know?
I want to say they're townhouses.
All right. All right, continue playing now to the end. All right, the direction that we're seeing here, where is that direction, please?
I'm currently facing like southwest.
When the Lansing Fire Department arrived, how did they get actually, through what access did they get to the location where Mr. Washington was?
They came through the western entrance, the southern west entrance.
Is that the entrance that we're looking at in this photograph right here, or this video right here?
That's correct.
All right. All right, sir, did there come a time when you authorized the Lansing Fire Department that they could unstage and they actually did arrive on scene?
There was, yes.
And what, if anything, occurred once the Lansing Fire Department arrived on scene?
When the fire department arrived on scene, I helped escort them to where the victim was at, and then helped them get the victim into their ambulance.
All right. And was he placed into the Lansing Fire Department ambulance?
He was.
And then where was he taken prior to being, or after being removed from the scene? Where was he taken?
After being removed from the scene, the fire department transferred him to Sparrow Hospital.
I want to talk about something, an incident that may have occurred while Mr. Washington was on the Sparrow Hospital, or excuse me, was on the Lansing Fire Department gurney in the parking lot. Did some sort of interaction occur between you and maybe his family members?
Yes, there were members of his family that were fairly distraught and were attempting to assault the fire department and basically impede them from being able to transport him to the hospital.
When you say they were attempting to assault him, were they violently assaulting, or were they just getting in their way?
Or object to relevance.
Well, he's processing the scene. It's the totality of the scene. So I think it's relevant to discuss the whole scene.
I'm going to allow it overruled.
Were they just getting in the way of the fire department? What were they actually doing?
It was a mixture of both getting in the way and then also physically touching the firefighters.
What is your job as a Lansing Police Department officer on scene as it relates to the Lansing Fire Department?
My job is to ensure their safety, to make sure that they're not assaulted or wounded or injured.
And did you intervene to make sure paramedics had appropriate ability to remove Miles from the scene and take him to the hospital?
Yes, I did.
And was Miles taken then to Sparrow Hospital emergency room for emergency treatment?
He was.
Okay. So you described that there were a number of people on scene. Did you learn during the course of your investigation that there had been a party at the location of 6255 Beachfield that night?
I did.
And as a result of their party, were there young people that were also on scene in addition to family members and police at that time?
Yes.
How many young people were on scene, if you recall?
I would say around 10 plus, somewhere around there.
And where were those young people mostly congregated, if you recall?
They were mostly congregated over by 6255.
The presence of those young people at 6255, given that there had been a shooting, did that increase how chaotic the nature of the scene was? What is a priority then when you have a chaotic scene, you're trying to figure out what happened? What do officers do next?
A big priority is to locate exactly where the scene happened at, and then to lock down that area to ensure that nobody goes into that area to tamper with that sort of thing.
Can you tell us, officer, what is crime scene tape, please?
Crime scene tape is basically all the tape that we have that we wrap around trees and other things to mark off areas where people aren't allowed to go into.
Was crime scene tape utilized to preserve the integrity of this scene?
It was.
Can you tell the jury the totality of the location where crime scene tape was put up that night?
It's kind of varied in a few different areas, but at the end of it, it basically covered a good portion of this parking lot where we're staying, where the victim's laying down at, and then at the back of 6255.
All right, so a fairly large area spanning from where the victim was to that apartment that you described?
I would say fairly large, yeah.
All of that was taped off and preserved?
That is correct.
In addition to taping it off, what else did officers do to maintain the integrity of that scene?
In addition to taping it off, we also had officers remain on the scene to make sure that nobody came in around.
Okay. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, before you got to the processing of this scene, this individual by the name of Martrell Jackson. We saw that you had initial contact with Mr. Jackson when you arrived. He was the shirtless male going over to Miles. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Where did you first then make more substantial contact with Martrell Jackson?
I made an initial brief interaction with him on the sidewalk, just kind of right over here to the south of where the victim was at. And then I later took him to my patrol vehicle and interviewed him further for a more detailed statement.
I want to talk a little bit about your initial contact with Martrell. Where was that in relation to where Miles was on the ground that you made contact with him?
It was within just a few feet.
Okay. And was Miles still present on scene when you made contact with Martrell Jackson?
I believe so, yes.
Did you speak to or get a general idea of what may have happened from Martrell Jackson that night?
Yes.
During the course of that initial interview that you had with Martrell Jackson, did he provide you with an identification or a description of the person who had shot Mr. Washington?
He didn't provide me with a description of the accused.
All right, and you don't have to tell us what that was.
Okay.
But once you received that information from Martrell Jackson, what did you do? Did you relay that description of the shooter to anyone that night?
Yes, I relayed that information over the radio for other officers in the area.
All right, so while Miles was still on scene, you had met with Martrell and you were able to put out a description of the shooter at that point in time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. I want to talk about a continued interaction you had with Mr. Jackson. Did you again make contact with him after that first contact on the sidewalk?
Yes, I did.
About how long later did you make contact with Mr. Jackson?
Probably 2-3 minutes afterwards.
And where did you make contact with him this second time, please?
The second time, it was in the backseat of a patrol vehicle.
When you saw Mr. Jackson the second time, did he still have no shirt on and some whatever he was wearing on the bottom?
That is correct.
All right, I'm going to just go back to exhibit number 7. And playing from 4 minutes and 36 seconds on the exhibit. All right, that individual that we see right in front of you, that appears to be Mr. Jackson. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Wearing no shirt, correct?
Correct.
Wearing some dark colored pants, correct?
Correct.
And then he's also got what looks like maybe his undergarments sticking out the top of his pants. Is that correct?
Appears to be so.
All right. So when you made contact with him on the sidewalk, can you mark for us, please, where it was that you made initial contact with him on the sidewalk?
I would say it was somewhere generally on the other side of that car.
Okay. And was he still dressed in the same manner that we see here?
He was.
And when you made second contact with him 2 to 3 minutes later, was he still shirtless, dressed in the same manner that you saw?
That is correct.
All right. What, if anything, happened when you made second contact with him on scene that night?
The second contact that I made with him, I obtained a more detailed statement of everything that occurred.
Where did you obtain that statement from him?
I obtained that while he was in the backseat of a patrol vehicle.
Why did you make the decision to put him in the backseat of a patrol vehicle?
I decided to do that because there was a lot of other people that were on scene and a fair amount of people appeared to want to make contact with him. So in order to keep kind of like the witness statement separate, I decided to put him back there so that he was a little bit safer and that he would also not be talking to everybody else on scene.
What, if any, physical injuries did you observe to Martrell Jackson when you made contact with him in a more detailed fashion in the police cruiser that night?
Yes. Martrell had complained of head pain and in the backseat of the patrol car, I examined the top of his head and it appeared to be bleeding.
All right. In addition to being and having head pain, appeared to be bleeding, what, if anything, did you observe about his demeanor when you made contact with him?
He appeared to be pretty worked up over this incident.
Okay. Now, as it relates to this witness, Martrell Jackson, that you've now interviewed twice, first right while Miles was present and then later in your patrol car, where was Martrell Jackson ultimately taken that night to continue the investigation?
He was later taken over to our operations center to be interviewed by our detectives.
Why is it important to, even if a witness has been interviewed on scene, why is it important to maybe take them to the detective bureau to be further interviewed?
Yes, because usually when our detectives come in for these incidents, they'll have more information than what we have They'll be able to talk to all the other different officers, the officers at the hospital, the officers that are on scene, the dispatchers and things of that nature. So they'll know more about the incident to be able to ask more detailed questions.
All right. So officer, we're at the point in time where you've now responded and the Lansing Fire Department has arrived and you've at least contacted one witness, Mr. Jackson. Is that all correct?
That is correct.
While you're there, are other officers participating in this investigation on scene as well?
There are.
Okay. In total, by this time, how many officers from the Lansing Police Department, if you could estimate it, actually arrived on scene to assist in this investigation?
I would say somewhere around 8, somewhere around 8 officers.
And does the Lansing Police Department have supervisors or road sergeants that kind of supervise what's going on the road?
Yes, we did.
And were there any supervisors or sergeants present also assisting in the investigation that night?
Yes, there was a couple supervisors that came to the scene.
All right, so all of those officers, fair to say, were participating in some fashion in investigating this matter. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So Mr. Washington has been removed from the scene. Other officers and yourself are investigating. Is it now time to sort of process this scene to determine what, if any, physical evidence might be obtained?
Yes,
Does the Lansing Police Department have a crime scene investigation unit?
we did.
Does the crime scene investigation unit come out under all circumstances?
No, they did not.
What are some of the circumstances where they might be called out as opposed to when they're not called out?
They would be called out for fairly complicated crime scenes or murders, things of that nature.
All right. In this particular case, was a crime scene investigator actually contacted to process the scene?
They were not.
Who makes that decision?
That is typically a command decision.
All right. If a crime scene investigator is not called out, can the scene still be processed in some fashion?
Yes,
And who is responsible for processing the scene when an actual CSI officer doesn't come out?
depending on the scene, they could either have just the usual responding officers take care of it, or if there is a CSI technician that is working for more complicated stuff, they'll have a CSI technician.
Are you a CSI technician, sir?
I am.
Can you tell the jury what a CSI technician is?
Basically what that entails is a day's worth of training with the crime scene investigators where they kind of teach you more advanced ways of collecting evidence, photography and things of that nature, how to process more complicated scenes than what a normal police officer is trained on in the academy.
In addition to yourself, were there any other crime scene investigators or crime scene technicians working as road patrol officers that night?
Yes, there was.
Who was that, please?
That was Officer Rincon.
All right, understanding that a CSI officer was not called out and you and Officer Rincon were present, who was tasked with actually processing this scene?
It was myself and Officer Rincon.
All right, thank you. So I want to talk now about some of the things you did to process this crime scene. First of all, tell the jury, why is it important to process a shooting scene? What kinds of things are you looking for, and why is there a necessity to do that?
Yes, there's a wide variety of reasons, but there is a ton of different evidence that comes with shootings. You're looking for clothing, shell casings, video cameras, cell phones, personal items, things of that nature. Anything that could be left behind by an accused subject that could be later used for identification, all of which is super important to make sure that we document the scene and to figure out exactly how this crime happened.
All right, so I want to talk about some of the things that you knew before you actually went about assisting in processing it. You knew that Mr. Washington was laying face down on the pavement when officers arrived. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
You knew what Mr. Washington was wearing, some sort of pants and no shirt, lying face down. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Was it your belief or your assumption at the time that he had been shot at least one time during the course of this incident?
That is accurate.
And were you or had you been given an initial description of the shooter by Martrell Jackson?
That is correct.
All right, so armed with that information, how do you go about processing this crime scene? What's your first step, please?
So first steps is looking over the scene to see exactly where your evidence is going to be at. So examining the area where the victim is located to see what articles are around that area, and then going around to the rest of the scene to see what else is around, to make sure you know exactly what you're looking at.
And I guess one of the things I should have asked you is, as part of your preliminary knowledge preparing the scene, were you aware as you were processing it that there had been this party at 6255 and that this incident emanated from that party?
Yes.
Okay. And was that known from witness testimony that was given on scene?
Yes.
Okay. So again, what is the first step that you take? Is it photographs? How do you document what you're seeing that night?
So after I look over the entire scene to see where all the evidence and where the crime had occurred at, then I take out a camera and photograph the scene itself.
All right, so I want to start with some preliminary photographs, and I want to show you what's been marked into evidence as people's proposed exhibit number 1 through 6. If I could switch to the Elmo, Mr. Ring, please. Your Honor, at this time, pursuant to stipulation agreement between the parties, the people will move for admission of people's proposed exhibits 1 through 6.
1 through 6 are admitted by stipulation.
All right, officer, I'm going to go through these photographs with you, and you can just kind of tell us what we're looking at. I know it was a little bit dark that night, so we'll do the best we can. Now, we kind of show you the photograph on approach, and then put it on the screen, and the jury can look at it when they're ready. Showing you people's exhibit number 1. Just tell us what we're looking at people's exhibit number 1.
We are looking at a photograph of the, basically a street sign labeling where we're located at.
All right, and that's documenting the location of where this incident happened. Is that correct?
That is correct.
This is at the apartments, Fairfield Place Apartments on Beachfield Drive. Is that all accurate, sir?
That is accurate.
Thank you. All right, showing you people's exhibit number 2. Tell us what vantage point we're looking at, please, in people's exhibit number 2.
We're looking at where that street sign is located in relation to where the scene is at.
All right. Now, if you could mark, please, where, just so the jury's oriented, where is the victim lying in people's exhibit number 2, the general area?
The victim was located right around in there.
We see adjacent to where the victim is located, that red car that we referenced earlier. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
And at the time these photos are taken, it looks like the doors on the car have been closed at this point in time.
That is correct.
So different than when police first responded at the time you're processing, correct?
Correct, a little different.
Okay.
Would you like that printed?
No, that's okay, Your Honor. Thank you. Some stuff I made down the road, but not this
Thank
thing.
you.
All right, showing you people's exhibit number 3. Getting a little bit closer here. Tell us what we're looking at in people's exhibit number 3.
Fairly similar photo, just a little bit closer to the scene, just kind of allowing us to see where it is in relation to the parking lot.
All right, so this is a good photograph to demonstrate for the jury. The apartment at 6255 where this incident emanates from, is that basically viewable in people's exhibit number 3?
That is correct.
Okay, could you mark, please, where that apartment is located?
Right over here.
All right, is that the apartment itself right there?
Yes.
Okay. If we were walking, if a person was walking from that apartment to where Mr. Washington was found, how would the person have to travel? Is there a sidewalk there?
Yes, there's a sidewalk.
All right, we're going to talk. Okay, so I'm sorry, straight back. So that's the apartment, and there is a sidewalk that leads directly to the area where Mr. Washington was found. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. Showing you people's exhibit number 4. What are we looking at people's exhibit number 4?
We are looking at a photograph of the red car.
People's exhibit number 5. Tell us what we're looking at people's exhibit number 5.
What we are looking at is basically where we located the victim in between the 2 cars, and the clothing was around him.
Now, we're going to get into this more, but with respect to the blue jeans that we see in this photograph, those were the blue jeans that the victim, Mr. Washington, was actually wearing when police responded that night. Is that correct?
Those were the jeans he was wearing at the time, yes.
We've noted that he was shirtless, but we're seeing lots of garments around. And what are those garments from?
Those garments were located around him and on him when we arrived on scene.
All right. So you don't know who donated those garments to him. We know he wasn't wearing them though. Is that correct?
That is correct.
It's showing you people's number 6, which is a little bit darker. Actually shows up pretty well. Is the sidewalk area visible as it relates to where Mr. Washington was found that night?
It is.
Can you mark that, please?
Sidewalk is right there.
Okay. So his body was in between the parked cars, just off the sidewalk. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Let me go to the next photographs with you, please. We left off talking about that sidewalk. Let's just jump right in with that. I want to show you what's been marked as proposed exhibits, people's exhibit 15 through 37. I'm going to show these to council. Rather, pursuant to stipulation, at this time, the people are going to move for admission into evidence of people's proposed exhibits 15 through 37, all of which will be identified as photographs.
Admitted.
All right, so we left off in people's exhibit number 6, talking about the sidewalk area that you just marked and showing you people's number 15. Tell us what we're looking at in people's number 15, please.
What we're looking at is a view from the sidewalk facing the east towards 6255.
All right, we'll notice in this photograph, the crime scene tape is blocking off these areas. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
And then can you mark for the jury? Let me just straighten this out. If you could mark for the jury, please, where that apartment at 6255 is located, please.
255 is located right over there.
All right, so again, to my question, you can take the sidewalk directly from 6255 down to the location where Mr. Washington lay. Is that accurate, sir?
That is accurate.
All right. I want to show you people's number 16 now, please. Can you tell the jury geographically which direction we're looking at in people's number 16?
We are looking east.
And where is 6255 in relationship to this photo, please?
It is right there.
All right. This area that we see right here along the side of the building, what is this area here?
It's kind of it's like a grassy area in between the two buildings.
You could estimate for us, please, how long or how big is that grassy area between the two buildings?
I would say it's about 20, 30 feet in between.
If we were to travel down that grassy area and go behind the building, what, if anything, would we see located back there?
You'll see the back porch or back patio of the apartments.
All right. I want to take this a little out of order. I want to show you people's exhibit number 18. Tell us what we're looking at in people's number 18 geographically. Where are we?
We are basically behind 6255 facing west.
Is this area sort of the end point of the grassy area along the side, or are we now to the back of the building?
We're basically towards the back of the grassy area.
Okay. Showing you people's number 17 now. What are we looking at in people's number 17?
We are looking at the back porch area, the grass behind it, behind 6255.
And again, your understanding was that this incident emanated from that back porch at 6255?
That is correct.
Went into the grassy area, correct?
Correct.
To the sidewalk area that we've seen, correct?
Correct.
Up to where Mr. Washington was found.
That is accurate.
Does that sort of summarize the totality of the distance of this crime scene that night?
It does.
It's a pretty large area.
Fairly large.
Okay. Who was involved in processing that area between where Mr. Washington lay and this back porch area that we see in People's Exhibit number 17?
It was myself and Officer Ringo.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to take you back now to the parking lot and show you People's Exhibit number 19. Tell us what we're looking at in People's Exhibit number 19.
We are looking at the red car that was parked parallel. Wow.
And so the record reflects the front of that vehicle, is that facing towards 6255 or away from 6255?
It's facing towards that apartment.
Showing you People's Exhibit number 20. What do we see in People's Exhibit number 20?
We're seeing the front portion of the car.
This area we discussed right there in the windshield, there appears to be some sort of defect in the windshield. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Was that actually like a hole or just kind of a crack? What was it?
It appeared to be a bullet hole. A hole of sorts.
Showing you People's Exhibit number 21. What are we looking at in People's number 21?
We're looking at a similar photo, more so focused on the windshield of the car from the passenger side.
Showing you People's number 23. What are we looking at in People's 23?
We're looking at the rear passenger side of the car.
And lastly, as it relates to the red car, what do we see in People's number 24?
We're looking at the very rear of the vehicle.
Okay. I want to orient you now to that area in between that parking space where Mr. Washington was found in our initial video. Showing you People's number 25. What do we see in People's number 25?
We see a fair amount of blood on the ground and then a handful of clothing assorted together.
You just described that there appeared to be a fair amount of blood on the ground. Mr. Washington was bleeding a lot, wasn't he?
He was.
Okay. People's number 26. What do we see in People's number 26?
We see another view of that, of again, the blood on the ground and the clothing that is there. And then there appears to be some like smudge marks on the side of the car.
When police were attending to Mr. Washington on the ground, how did they get his pants off of him to assess his legs?
In order to make an assessment of his injuries, they cut off his pants.
Understanding his pants were cut, what can you describe about the basic style of those pants, though, those blue jeans that he was wearing?
The basic style, they're whitewashed. They appear to be kind of like skinny jeans.
Are they ripped jeans too?
Yeah,
Okay, so the cut that we see, that's from Aid, but it had like a ripped or frayed style. Is that accurate?
that is accurate. All right.
Showing People's number 27. What do we see in People's 27?
We see a wallet that was located in those jeans.
Just running through these pretty quickly. People's number 28. Tell the jury what we see in People's number 28.
And people's number 28, we see a green sweatshirt.
29. Tell us what we're looking at.
And people's 29, we were looking at a black t-shirt with a graphic on the front of it.
And People's number 30. What are we looking at, please?
We were looking at a black zip-up sweatshirt with a white writing on the arms of the hoodie.
So again, those last few exhibits that we saw, the clothing, other than the jeans, he wasn't wearing a shirt, but there was that clothing maybe put on top of him for whatever reason. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. So now I want to talk about some specific addresses, please, and I want to show you People's number 31 and ask the address, can you tell us the addresses that were directly adjacent to where Mr. Washington was on the ground? If you can't read them, I can show.
I can see 62, 69, and I can't really see what the one to the left of that is.
Can you mark 62, 69 for us, please? Let me approach with People's Exhibit number 31. Can you identify what that is, please?
That is 62, 67.
All right, can you mark, please, where 62, 67 is located, please? So those were the two addresses that were immediately behind where Mr. Washington was on the ground. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Right. showing you people's exhibit number 32. Can you tell us what we see in people's exhibit number 32? What vantage point are we looking at?
We see a view from in front of those apartments that I just located there facing to the east.
6255, is that apartment on the corner basically, correct?
Correct.
Sidewalk, correct?
Correct.
And then stairs up to that grassy area that you described. Is that all accurate?
That is accurate.
All right, so I want to show you some photographs, please, about these building addresses that are there. And showing you people's exhibit number 33. Ask if you can tell us, please, what exhibits, or excuse me, what numbers are, what building numbers are associated with those doors, please.
6265 and 6263.
All right. Now I want to talk, sir, about something called a cartridge casing. Can you tell the jury, please, what is a fired cartridge casing?
A fired cartridge casing is basically where a bullet is stored, and once a firearm is fired, that casing will projectile from the fire.
Are you familiar with the term revolver, sir?
I am.
What is a revolver type of handgun based upon your experience as a police officer?
Basically, a revolver type handgun is a handgun where the bullets are loaded into it, and upon firing, that cylinder will rotate as you continue to fire.
Do cartridge casings eject from a revolver style handgun?
Cartridge casings do not eject from a revolver.
All right, what is a semi-automatic handgun, please?
Semi-automatic handgun is a handgun where the magazine is inserted into the firearm, and then through the course of firing it, the top of the firearm, the slide will rotate those casings in and out, the ammunition in and out.
If you find a discharged empty cartridge casing, does that indicate that a weapon has been fired?
It does.
And does it indicate it's been fired from a semi-automatic style handgun?
It does.
As part of your investigation in this case, did you and Officer Rincon attempt to look for any type of fired cartridge casings, understanding that this was a shooting?
We did.
Tell the jury what you and Officer Rincon did to look for fired cartridge casings.
We walked through basically the whole scene with our flashlights out and going through the grassy area of the parking lot, through the grass to look for those cases.
Can it be difficult to find fired cartridge casings sometimes?
It can often be very difficult to find.
And why is that?
For a variety of reasons, casings can basically go wherever. They can fall into small cracks, they can go into sewer lines, they can go into grass that are very difficult to locate. People oftentimes on scenes can often pick them up, they can get stuck on the bottoms of shoes, tires, so they can be a little tricky to locate.
The chaotic nature of this scene, would that contribute potentially to the difficulty in locating fired cartridge casings?
Absolutely, with us being in a high traffic area, grass and portions of the parking lot, casings can be very difficult to be located in that area.
Understanding that, were you and Officer Rincon able to locate any fired cartridge casings that night?
Yes, we were.
How many fired cartridge casings were you able to locate, please?
I was able to locate 2 fire casings.
All right, so I want to talk about those, please, and we see people's exhibit number 33. Can you tell the jury, please, this white area at the bottom of the photograph in people's books, I'm in the fair, excuse me. I just wish I was a way I could make this less blurry,
I think when you put your hand close to it.
less shiny.
Yeah.
No, that's not helping. There we go. Okay, do you see the white area at the bottom of that photograph?
I did.
Can you tell the jury what is that white area that we see at the bottom of the photograph, right here, please?
Basically, that's a folded piece of paper.
All right, what is the purpose of that folded piece of paper?
It's an impromptu evidence marker.
And what is that marking or depicting at that location?
That is marking where a shell casing was located.
All right. Now, with respect to where that shell casing was located, what is the address in front of which that shell casing is located?
6265.
Right. So that is at least 2 full residences down from where Mr. Washington was ultimately located at between 6267 and 6269. Is that accurate?
That's who's said here.
Okay. want to show you what's been admitted as People's Exhibit number 34, kind of narrowing that down, and it's a better view there. What are we looking at, People's 34?
We were looking at a closer up photograph of that casing.
All right. Showing People's Exhibit number 35. What do we see in People's Exhibit number 35?
We see a
Oh, hold on a second, sir, I'm sorry.
fairly similar view with another impromptu evidence marker on the sidewalk in front of 6263.
And then People's Exhibit number 36. What do we see in People's 36?
You see a closer up photograph of that shell casing.
All right, so you located 2 fired semi-automatic casings, multiple doors down from where Mr. Washington was actually finally located in between the cars. Is that accurate, sir?
That is accurate.
Those casings, sir, they appear to be not in the same location, meaning one is located on the front stoop of 6265, and then one in more of the grassy area of 6265. Is that correct?
That is correct.
In your opinion, sir, could that be consistent with a shooter who is moving forward when discharging those rounds?
That is
That
accurate.
actually calls for speculation.
I don't think it calls for speculation at all. I think he can give a lay opinion as an officer, as a CSI technician, based upon his testimony here today, that it is consistent at least with a shooter who was moving forward. Whether that it is or is not is up to the jury, but it's consistent.
I'm going to allow, but also allow cross-examination. You may proceed.
Thank you. Now, officer, during the course of your processing, did you actually seize these shell casings that were located in the areas we just showed?
Yes, we did.
I want to show you People's Exhibit number 37. Tell us what we're looking at in People's number 37, please.
We are looking at the rear of the shell casing.
All right, so this is one of the 2 shell casings that you recovered, is that correct?
That is correct.
Were you able to determine the caliber of this shell casing, please?
Through the photograph, it's a little difficult, but I recall it being a 9mm.
Were both shell casings 9mm shell casings?
They were.
So that would be indicative to you of at least 2 shots being fired from a 9mm semi-automatic handgun, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Once items are collected into evidence, where do you as a CSI technician take those pieces of evidence?
I take those pieces of evidence to one of our buildings and I tag them in to go to our comprehensive finding.
The 9mm shell casings that you picked up in this particular case, were those seized and tagged into evidence in the manner that you just described?
They were.
All right. So I need what's been marked into evidence. Marked into evidence. Excuse me. I want to show you what's been marked into evidence as People's Proposed Exhibit number 39. Ask if you can identify what those are, please.
Those appear to be the shell casings that we located on scene.
The tag that we see here lists a date of seizure. What is the date of seizure?
The date of seizure, it's kind of cut off a little bit, but it appears to be 7/7/2024.
The person who tagged those in, that would be who, please?
Of the Officer Rinco.
You and Officer Rincon were working together processing this scene? So based upon the fact that you were working together, do you have personal knowledge that these are the items that were collected from the scene?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, I'm going to move admission at this time of People's Proposed Exhibit number 39, please.
Any objection?
Just one follow-up board here question, if I may. Your
You
Honor.
may.
Morning, officer.
Morning, sir.
Did you witness these shell casings being collected and taken into evidence?
I did.
I have no objection.
Admitted.
All right, so I'm going to show you these on the screen, officer. One of them's kind of buried in there, but is this at least one of the two 9mm shell casings that you located and seized on scene that particular night?
That would be.
Okay. Now, officer, what if anything was done by either you or fellow officers that night to try and obtain any video footage on scene?
There was.
Can you tell us, please, can you elaborate? Did you particularly look for video surveillance footage, or did somebody else on your team look for surveillance footage?
It was sort of an assortment of both. Throughout the course of me being on the scene, I was looking around to see if there's any video evidence. And then at one point, myself and Officer Rincon were approached by the property manager, who had told us that there was video cameras in the area.
And was any video footage able to be obtained, though, of the shooting incident or the incident that occurred prior to the shooting?
The manager had told us that the video was not working, and I wasn't able to locate any other video in the area.
Can you tell me, please, in total, if you arrived at 3:18, in total, how long did you and Officer Rincon remain on scene investigating and processing the totality of this incident?
We remained on scene for hours. It was until after daylight, until after my shift had ended, so it was a fair amount of time we had spent processing this and tagging and evidence.
All right, great, thank you. All right, thank you. The people have no further questions.
Cross.
Okay.
Morning again, officer.
Or sir.
I guess start where we just left off and maybe work backwards a little bit. You were talking about your attempts to locate any footage from the apartment complex. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And it was your understanding after speaking with the property manager that any video system that they had was not working. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And did you do any additional follow-ups with the property management or company as it relates to that issue?
I did not conduct any additional follow-up.
Okay. And did you contact or attempt to contact any neighbors who may have captured the incidents on ring camera footage or any other similar types of camera systems?
I did not notice any ring cameras or anything else in the area. I don't specifically recall making contact with anyone specific.
Okay. And when you say you didn't, did you mean you tried and did not, or you did not attempt to contact or reach out to any of the neighbors as it relates to video footage?
I would say I attempted, but I did not make specific contact with anybody during my attempts.
And when you attempted, what did you do? Did you knock on doors or what? What did you do?
That would be accurate, knocking on doors.
How many did you knock on, if you can recall?
I don't specifically recall. I would say maybe 2 or 3.
And it was that no one responded, or they responded and indicated that they did not have any video systems?
It was that nobody responded.
Did you do any follow-up with any of them in the days after that?
I did not.
And you talked about some of the individuals that you encountered and spoke to on the scene, is that right?
That is correct.
And you spoke with Marshall Jackson, which you've already told us about, is that correct?
That is correct.
And it indicated on your direct examination that there was a description provided as it related to the shooter, and you used that to relay that further in your investigation. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. Would it also be accurate to say Mr. Martrell Jackson gave descriptions of multiple suspects?
He did.
And those were in contrast to one another, is that correct?
They were.
Contrast in terms of the physical descriptions, is that accurate?
That is accurate.
And you talked about an injury or maybe some bleeding that you had observed, I believe you said on the, was it the top of Mr. Jackson's head?
It appeared to be his upper leg portion area.
Are we talking like forehead or more of the top of the head?
Somewhere around his hip. I don't know exactly where. I wasn't the one that cut his pants off, so I don't know exactly where the injury was at.
Well, Mr. Jackson didn't have his pants cut off, is that correct? That was Mr. Washington, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, for a little mistake here. Yes, in relation to Mr. Jackson, his injury was on his head, on like the upper back portion of his head.
Kind of like around the crown of the head?
That would be accurate, yes.
Okay. And you're not able to tell us just from looking at what would have caused that injury, is that correct?
I wouldn't be able to tell exactly what caused it, no.
And did you speak with or get any statements from Mr. Washington?
I did not.
Other than speaking with Mr. Jackson and making some type of contact with the property management, did you speak with anyone else on scene that night or those early morning hours?
No one that had provided any sort of witness statement or anything in relation to the incident.
Thank you, officer. That's all the questions I have.
Redirect.
Thank you, Officer Palmer. You just asked a question. I don't want to call it a trick question, but I want to make sure we understand what your response was. You were asked on cross-examination if you spoke to Martrell Jackson. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you were asked if he provided you with a description of the shooter, correct?
That is correct.
And you replied that he did give you a description of the shooter. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that was the description that you put out over dispatch that night, the description of the shooter that Martrell Jackson gave you, correct?
That is correct.
Right. Counsel then asked you, he gave you the physical description of other persons involved in this as well, correct?
That is correct.
Said those descriptions were different than the one he gave of the shooter, or they were inconsistent with the description he gave of the shooter. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. He was giving descriptions of other people, not the shooter, right?
That is correct.
All right. Was his description that he gave you of the shooter consistent that night when you were on scene?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions.
May this witness be released from subpoena?
Let me just double check, Your Honor, 1 second. I think yes. I'm sure I will make it.
You've admitted 1 through 7, 15 through 22, and 26 through 38.
Should be 15 through 25, correct? Yep, 15 through
Is it
25.
through 25?
Yeah, I had 15 through 25,
Okay,
and then
let's
20.
make sure, so I had, oh yes, I just didn't highlight, yes, it's 15 through 25, thank you.
That's okay, thank you, Your Honor, and then the balance would be 26 through 39, so that's the totality, but thank you, Your Honor, we have no objection to him being excused.
You happy to defend it? Any objection?
No objection to the witness being released from subpoena, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time and testimony. You're released from subpoena. Please do not discuss your testimony with any witness during the pendency of this trial.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next case.
Thank you, people call, well, we do call Officer Fox to the witness stand, but if we could approach just for one moment, please.
You may.
Thank you. People call Officer Mark Fox to the witness stand.
Morning, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide to be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Put your hand on your seat. Pull the chair right up to the microphone. Feel free to adjust it when you are comfortable. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Mark Fox, MARC,
Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Officer Fox,
Good afternoon, sir.
and thank you for your patience here this morning. Can you tell the jury where are you employed?
Lansing Police Department.
How long have you been a police officer with the Lansing Police Department?
3 years in January.
In what capacity are you currently employed with the Lansing Police Department?
I'm a patrol officer and I work at our tactical team.
I want to direct your attention, please, to the date of July 7th of 2024. Were you so employed and working as a road patrol officer with the Lansing Police Department at that time?
I was.
Officer Fox, were you on duty on July 7th of 2024?
Yes, I was.
What was your actual assignment on July 7th of 2024?
I was on patrol in the north end of the city.
What hours or shift were you working on the north end of the city?
We work 8:30 PM to 6:30 AM.
Officer Fox, on that evening of July 7th, 2024, were you working alone or with a partner?
I was alone.
Were you in full police uniform?
Yes, I was.
And were you in a marked patrol vehicle?
Yes, I was.
Officer, were you also equipped with body-worn camera that night?
Yes, I was.
Can you tell the jury under what circumstances your body-worn camera will be activated?
My body worn camera is activated anytime I interact with the public or if I'm running code in my patrol vehicle.
All right, I want to take your attention now, please, specifically to the early hours, approximately 3:18 a.m. Did there come a time when you were dispatched to the location of 6255 Beachfield Drive?
Yes, I was.
That location, is it within the city of Lansing within Ingham County, Michigan?
Yes, it is.
Can you tell the jury, please, why were you dispatched to that location at that particular date and time?
I was dispatched for a shooting in the south end of the city at that address.
Officer Fox, understanding that you are a North Side Patrol officer, why would you respond to something that occurred on the south end that night?
It just depends on the type of crime. This is a very serious crime. We know there's going to be medical coming, the scene needs to be secured. There's a lot of moving parts. So I went to the south end of the city to aid those officers for such a serious event.
Would this be considered a priority call, sir?
100%, yes.
And would you have responded to this location with your lights and sirens activated?
I would.
All right, we've had testimony that this occurred at what's called the Fairfield Place apartment complex in the city of Lansing. Do you recall your initial response to that scene, sir?
Yes,
When you arrived on scene, were other patrol officers already on scene?
yes, they were.
In addition to patrol officers from the Lansing Police Department, were any other official personnel present when you got there that night?
I observed Lansing Fire Department on scene as well.
So by the time you arrived, sir, there were road patrol officers from LPD as well as the ambulance from the Lansing Fire Department. Is that correct?
Yes,
When you got out of your patrol car, sir, can you tell us, please, what did you generally observe when you first made the scene that night?
I observed at least 10 police officers and an ambulance as well as fire department and paramedics on scene. And I observed that the incident scene, the scene where the incident happened, needed to be closed off. And that was my initial job when I got on scene, was to put crime scene tape up.
All right, so I want to talk about that a little bit. You sounds like you made an assessment that this scene needed to be locked down pretty quickly. Is that correct?
Correct.
And why did you make that assessment as an experienced police officer, sir?
So a shooting had occurred, a violent felony crime had occurred. I did not know the outcome of the victim at that point in time, and if this turned into a homicide, detectives needed to come to the scene. We need to lock the scene down in order to preserve any of the evidence that would be available on the scene.
In addition to Lansing police officers and fire department personnel, were there citizens that were on scene that you could see as well?
I honestly don't recall seeing any citizens on scene. I was pretty far back in the scene, and there was already multiple police officers dealing with everything else going on in the scene.
All right, so if we've had testimony that the scene was chaotic, you would not be necessarily directly interacting with the public that night. Is that accurate?
I was not directly interacting with the public that night.
All right. So tell us what you did to begin the placement of crime scene tape and where you started to secure the scene down, please.
So I arrived on scene, I made contact with the officers that had already been there, and they advised me of where the area was. They believed that the crime happened, and I said, okay, we need to get crime scene tape up and start closing this off. So I went to my patrol vehicle, or retrieved crime scene tape from a box in the back that has all of our supplies in it, and I grabbed another officer, and we started closing off the scene. So we put up crime scene tape around where the ambulance was, so no more vehicles could travel into the parking area of the apartment complex. And then I was advised that LFD is going to transport the victim to Sparrow Hospital, and I volunteered to follow the ambulance to Sparrow Hospital and sit with the victim until detectives arrived.
Officer Fox, why is it important for a police officer in a violent crime circumstance like this to actually follow the fire department ambulance to Sparrow Hospital?
Oh, there's a couple of reasons. The first is protecting that victim for any retaliatory crime that can happen after the fact. Second is I need to be able to give information out to other officers on scene. So if that victim provided me with more information, I'd be able to put it up over the radio to those officers, and the welfare for command of the victim.
All right, did there come a time when the Lansing Fire Department actually left the scene with the victim who's identified as Miles Washington? Did they actually leave the scene, sir?
Yes, they left the scene with him.
And did you follow behind the Sparrow House Did you follow behind the Lansing Fire Department rig directly to Sparrow Hospital?
Yes, I did.
And was that rig in view of yourself the whole time that you traveled from the scene over to Sparrow Hospital?
I believe so.
Where was Mr. Washington taken once we got to Sparrow Hospital that night?
The ambulance has a special bay that all the ambulances that come to Sparrow Hospital park in. We parked in the backside, and I followed the victim from the ambulance into the trauma room in the hospital.
All right, once the victim was taken into the trauma room, do you initially go into the trauma room as well, or do you stay out while doctors preliminarily evaluate it?
I stay at the door, let the doctors do their job, try to stay out of their way. When things calm down, I try to make contact with the individual in the room.
Did you in fact make contact with this individual who had just been brought into Sparrow Hospital?
I did.
And I've suggested his name to you, but can you identify who this individual was, please?
Miles Washington, Miles Illinois.
Approximately how long after he was first brought to Sparrow Hospital did you first have contact with Mr. Washington, if you recall?
I would approximate 10 to 15 minutes. There was a lot of movement, doctors and nurses in the room, so at least 10 to 15 minutes before I made contact and started speaking with him in the room.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit about your observation. When you first made contact with Miles inside the emergency room, what was his physical condition when you made contact with him?
Well, he had been shot in both of his legs, so those wounds were exposed. I assume by the way he was talking, he was showing signs of shock, but also the doctors could have done whatever they've done there. I can't speculate on that. He was a little upset that he got shot and definitely in pain.
All right. During the course of your time with Miles Washington, did you actually have occasion to take photographs of him inside the hospital room?
I did.
And why was it important for you as a police officer who was responding to take photographs of Mr. Washington at the hospital?
The wounds themselves are evidence of a crime. So I, with his permission, took pictures of the wounds to basically document what happened to him.
All right, I'm going to show you some photographs, please. I'm going to show you what's been marked into evidence as People's Proposed Exhibits 8 through 14, please. All right, this time I'm going to move by stipulation, please, for admission into evidence of People's Proposed Exhibits 8 through 14.
Admitted.
I'll show you on the screen Officer People's Exhibit number 8. And ask if you can identify, please, who that individual is in People's Exhibit number 8.
That is Miles Washington.
When he was in the OR, appeared to have something under his nose right there while he was in the OR, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, some oxygen, is that accurate?
Yes.
Showing you People's number 9. Can you tell us what we're looking at in People's number 9?
It's a different angle of the same individual.
This area that we see right above his right eyebrow, can you describe what we see right above his right eyebrow, please?
It's a bruise on his above his eyebrow.
Did you take photographs of some or all of his injuries, sir, please?
I believe I covered all of his injuries.
I'll show you what's been admitted into evidence as People's Exhibit number 10. Show us what we're looking at, please, or tell us what we're looking at in People's Exhibit number 10.
I believe that is a gunshot wound to his leg.
In that photograph, is that his right or left leg, if you can tell?
It appears to be his left leg.
Showing you People's Exhibit number 11. What do we see in 11, please?
This is also a gunshot wound to his leg, above his knee.
Can you circle, please, where that, I'm trying to get the light as good as I can here. Can you circle, please, where that gunshot wound is located, as we see in People's Exhibit number 11? All right. All right, showing you People's Exhibit number 12. Tell us what we're looking at in People's Exhibit number 12.
I believe that's also his left leg. I'm not sure from the angle. I know that he had a through and through in his right leg, and then the bullet stopped in his left leg.
All right, so I'm going to direct your attention right down here to this area on the screen. Does that appear to be the area of the gunshot wound site that you were photographing?
Yes.
And then above that, we also see an area, looks like some sort of laceration or abrasion to his leg.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Sir, you said a through and through, does it mean it went from one leg to the other or in one and out? You just explained.
So I have no idea how many rounds were fired on scene, but I know that the victim had one bullet passed through his body, and then in his opposite leg, so the left leg, he had an injury wound. And then when he went to X, because I was there the whole time, he went to X-ray, they said the bullet was lodged in the left leg.
And we'll have medical testimony tomorrow, Your Honor, about the specifics of that. I'm just trying to basically document it photographically.
Thank you.
I'm just going back to People's Exhibit 11 or 10 as I look at it. I think that might be his right leg, sir. I think you were questioning him, but that looks like his right leg. Is that accurate?
Yes,
All right, and the defect that we see would be right to the front of his right leg, is that accurate?
correct.
Okay. Showing you people's number 13. It appears to be a dressing of one or both of those wounds to his left leg. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And then lastly, people's exhibit number 14. Tell us what we're looking at in people's exhibit number 14.
Those look like abrasions to the top of his foot.
Right. Now, when you were in the hospital with Mr. Washington, you described some of his physical injuries, the fact that he was being treated. Did you have occasion to interview him at Sparrow Hospital emergency room that night?
I did.
You told us once he had arrived, it was about 10 minutes between when he was placed in the emergency room, trauma room, and when you made contact with him. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
How long in total do you think you spent with Mr. Washington that night inside that emergency room trauma unit?
For the interview portion, I would say between 15 and 20 minutes inside the room. I waited on scene at the doorway until detectives arrived. So I wasn't necessarily directly interacting with him, but I was on scene for a while. I'm not sure of the exact time. Detectives showed up at a later point and took over.
Okay, very good. So I'm just trying to figure out, sounds like he arrived at Sparrow Hospital, was taken right into a trauma room, and about 10 minutes later you made contact with him. Is that accurate?
Yeah, 10 to 15, yeah.
All right. And then how long after you first made contact with him did you start interviewing him?
Pretty quickly after that. I made small talk with him before I started the interview process, but then he did give me a statement. I think that lasted, I got another 10 to 15 minutes, maybe, how long the actual interview lasted with him.
Yeah, no, that's all fine. I'm just trying to understand the context of that interview. So when you made contact with him for that initial interview, he had basically just been taken into the Sparrow Hospital trauma unit, correct?
Yes.
Okay. He was being worked on by doctors for a period of at least 10 minutes, correct?
Correct.
You don't know what, if any, medication he may have been administered in that 10 minutes, correct?
I do not. Yeah, no.
Looks like he has sustained at least 2, if not more, gunshot wounds at that point in time, correct?
Correct.
Looks like he had some other trauma to his body, maybe the area of his eye or down by his feet. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You indicated that he was showing some signs of maybe being in shock from this incident. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you also indicated that he appeared to be very upset at that point in time. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So as we understand the context of information that was provided to you, it was given to you under those circumstances. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. Did you know how old Mr. Washington was at that time?
During the interview, no. Yeah.
Could you estimate how old he was?
Early 20s.
Was there anyone there, like family members or friends, supporting him at the time that you made contact with him?
No.
Okay. Sir, can you tell us, please, what is a medical release form?
Medical release form allows detectives to go back later and get information from the hospital for an investigation.
All right. And was it important for you to get a medical release form signed so that Miles's injuries could be actually medically documented in this investigation?
Yes,
And did you have Miles sign that medical release form?
I did.
Was he willing to do that?
He was.
And was he cooperative in signing that form?
He was cooperative.
Right. After you spoke to him, took the photos that we just saw, and signed the medical release form, you said you waited on scene outside the door. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Did anybody have contact with him during that period of time, like family members, friends, or otherwise?
No, just medical staff.
And then he was turned over to the Detective Bureau for any further interviews that night?
Yes, sir.
All right, we see Detective McGonigal from the Lansing Police Department City there. Do you recall her being the assigned detective that evening?
Honestly, I do not recall.
All right, but someone from the Detective Bureau showed up
Yes.
to interview. Okay. Do you know what time of morning it was that you actually left the scene?
I want to say between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. detectives arrive on scene.
All right. So by the time detectives arrived, Miles had been in the emergency room for probably close to 3 or almost 3 hours. Is that accurate?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Great, thank you so much. I don't have any further questions.
Good afternoon, officer.
Good afternoon.
And as I understand it, you spoke with Mr. Washington while he was in the hospital, is that correct?
Correct.
And so you did not retrieve any statements from him or attempt to while he was on scene when you arrived, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you said you are not privy to or do not know any medications, if any, he would have been administered prior to you speaking with him, is that correct?
That is correct.
Did you witness any doctors or nurses giving him any medication prior to you speaking with him?
No.
And were you in the room the whole time witnessing whatever was going on prior to you speaking with him?
No, I was outside the doorway. There was a lot of doctors and nurses in that room. I just stayed out of their way.
Okay. Closed door, open door?
The door was open. They had a curtain pulled a little bit, as would be normal inside of a medical room, but there's a lot of moving parts in there. I just stay out of the way.
And you said Mr. Washington obviously appeared upset, is that correct?
Yes.
And by that, what do you mean? Do you mean upset in terms of he appeared to be angry, in pain, both, something else?
I think an accurate assessment would be angry and in pain.
Okay. And was your body cam working whenever you would have been speaking with Mr. Washington?
Yes.
Okay. And you made a police report in this case as well, is that correct?
I did.
Okay. And you would have recorded any summaries or the high points of whatever Mr. Washington told you during your interview, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And whatever is recorded in your police report would be accurate as to what he told you, is that correct?
That is correct.
And did you assist any officers on scene in gathering or looking for any type of physical evidence?
I did not.
Did you assist any officers on scene in attempting to locate or speak to other witnesses?
I did not.
And what you told us here today, that's pretty much the extent of your involvement in this case. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
All right. Thank you, officer.
Thank you. I have no redirect, Your Honor.
May this witness be released from the subpoena?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
On behalf of the defendant,
Yes, sir.
thank you very much for your time and testimony. You are released from subpoena. Please do not discuss your testimony with any other witness during the pendency.
Yes, Your Honor.
Next witness.
All right, thank you. As we discussed at bench, we kind of slightly miscalculated based upon the schedule. We'll do our best to use the jury's time. Our next witness, who was here this morning, we released is a much longer witness. So rather than cut that witness up, we did release the witness and we're ready to start tomorrow in the afternoon with him. And then we're going to remain also in the morning with the doctor. Thank you.
All right, tomorrow, based on the doctor's schedule, we've